we are very excited for our very first episode as we are here with the lovely and talented Ashley Pigott from Ashley Pigott Events. Ashley, say hello.
Hello.
So I guess we first met. Let's go way back and let everybody know where we're at here. So we first met, I think it was almost 7 or even 8 years ago. Would you think that would be right?
Yeah, it would be when you were with Cloud9 Creative.
So yeah, it was back during wedding show days, and you were at the Fairmont, correct?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so give us some background on how you got started, because I know we met when you were at the Fairmont, and then what kind of happened from there, because I mean, it's been 8 years now. So.
Yeah, so when I was at Fairmont, I was probably about 8 years already into my career in hospitality. I'd gone through restaurants and catering and landed in hotels where I really found a passion for weddings. I was working in a really large hotel, so I was able to do some really cool, big production big clients, like some great events. And from there, I had my first baby. I went on maternity leave, which lasted all of 3 weeks before I was way too antsy to stay home. And I love my daughter, but it was, too much time at home, not really using my brain. So I decided to register a business and go out on my own. And it's been 6 years since then, since I started this business.
Wow. And now you are baby number 2.
Baby number 2 just came. She's 7 months old.
7 months.
And she's amazing. She's a better baby than the first. And the first was amazing. So I'm doing good.
Are there going to be more?
Definitely not.
No.
Definitely not. The shop is closed.
Yeah. Shop is done.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. So then, you started planning at Fairmont. And then you're also hospitality. What's the background of did you go to school for this?
No, actually I studied fashion.
Okay.
I was a fashion art student in the business, in a business program at Humber College. So I started there and put myself through school working at a restaurant. Started in, hostess, coat check, server, bartender. You work your way through, the hierarchy of restaurants. And then from there, wanted to ditch the evenings and weekends as much as possible. It's funny. It's full circle.
Right.
Definitely not my life now. But at the time, I wanted to go into catering. So I went into catering for a number of years, then into kosher catering, which is what led me to the Royal York, because I was the contact for the kosher caterer who would go in and do a lot of the big Jewish weddings that we would host there, then into the Royal York, and then ultimately my own business.
Now, can you cook since you were into catering, or is that just
I love to cook. I love to kind of develop menus. It's part of what I think is a really strong asset to what I give my clients. I'm able to really have a full brainstorm session with them about what they like to eat and, where they have brunch and what's their vice, so that we can come up with something fun for late night and things like that. So we'll have a full brainstorm before we go to the caterer. And then from there, that collaboration is really awesome because they're excited about new ideas and concepts and, doing something a little bit different, not off of a package per se.
It must be nice. And probably your favorite part is just going and eating.
Oh, yeah. Major work perk. Major. I never miss a tasting. Never.
And it's desserts too, right?
Cake tastings, 100%. Menu tastings. They want to bring me along to taste their chocolate truffle favors. I'll never say no.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is that one of the favorite parts of planning, or what's kind of
Yeah, I would definitely say it's one, because I have that catering background, the food component of it. Obviously, the tasting of it is such a, cherry on top. But it's a great way for me to exercise a skill set that I think otherwise I wouldn't necessarily be able to put into practice. So it definitely is one of my favorite parts for sure.
That's exciting. So you are more boutique style, right? Is that kind of how you describe your business?
I am definitely a quality over quantity type of planner. I take on a dozen to 15 events a year at a maximum, which is really funny because this is supposed to be technically my air quotes mat leave year with my youngest, and I have completely maxed out my bookings for the year. So it's not exactly a relaxing year, but I do take on less than some of my competitors, just for the reason of being able to really, offer what we call full service and be involved in everything from start to finish, very controlling in the most friendly way of just making sure that I've got eyes and ears on every category of their wedding, every little piece of it. And you can't do that if you're doing 40, 50 weddings a year. It's just physically not possible unless you've got a big staff.
For sure.
Right. And that's just not how I've decided to structure my business. And it's all just what works for your life. And at one point I was planning to take my business in a different direction and have another or two more junior planners who could take on things like month of and day of, which I don't do myself personally.
Right.
But there's a business opportunity there. So as a business person, I think, okay, well, I don't want to necessarily say no to this large market that's out there. But having gone through the process, it wasn't entirely the best fit for me. Again, controlling in a very positive and happy, friendly way. I just need to have my eyes and ears on everything, which means when someone is working with me, that I'm their main point of contact. And I can oversee every single piece of the puzzle, right? Which is really important to me.
That's amazing. So is it you have a team that works with you as well on wedding days?
Yeah, I have someone who does admin, kind of behind the scenes stuff with me, admin support, things like that, just because there aren't enough hours in the day. And then I have an on-site team in addition. So on-site, we're always a team of 4, sometimes 5, sometimes 6, depending on where we are, if we're far out of town, if we're on a really big property, and we just need lots of hands and eyes everywhere. So,
So hilarious. Something I wanted to bring up because I found it so fascinating was we chatted on the phone like a couple weeks ago, and we were just talking about outdoor weddings in general, and you had made mention to knowing certain things like whether the flowers, how long of a lifespan the flowers have before they need cooling. There's like time limits, and there's when you're outdoors, right?
I do a lot of stuff outside. So I'm in a tent, usually somewhere up in Muskoka or Niagara or somewhere outside of the city. And we don't necessarily have the luxury of like a big hotel fridge or even just air conditioning, which is something that I think we all take for granted in the summer.
For sure.
So yeah, you do need to be mindful of like how long, if you're using peonies, for example, like they need water and they need, they can't get overheated. I mean, they're somewhat of a resilient flower, but yeah, some of them need a little bit more care. Orchids, you can never lay them down. They bruise. Like these things need to be thought of. And it's a super small little thing, but it makes such a difference for your bride, for her photos, when she looks back and she goes, oh my God, it was 40 degrees that day. Like perfect, right? And those things will matter to her because she's going to have those pictures forever.
Right. Yeah. Do you find that like people, as you're bringing these topics up, people are like, oh my goodness, I hadn't thought of that. Like, do you feel like you get that a lot?
All the time. Well, I mean, over the years, you gain like these little tidbits of knowledge, right? And like, to me, they're not mind-blowing because to me, they're second nature. But, exactly. When I'm saying that to a couple and, they go, wow, I never even thought of that. But that's why they're hiring a professional. And that's, again, a skill set that I bring to the table, a small one that they might not even really notice. And and that's almost a good thing. Yeah. It should just be seamless. But it is nice when you kind of share a little hack. A little
tidbit, for sure.
Hack,
right? What do you think is one of like the biggest questions that you get on a repeat that you're like,
is everyone's family like this? I get that a lot. Right. Everyone's got their own level of drama. It's funny. I get a lot of questions. I get a lot.
I'm sure you're the go-to. Like, everything,
and they're all doing it for the first time.
And it's so
like as much as yes, I had my wedding. I've been married. I am married, happily married. It's the first time they're going through it, especially if they haven't had a sister or a brother or somebody else in their family who's gone through it. It's completely new to them. So they have no idea, where do we start? What do we do first? Is this the right thing to do? You get a lot of more counseling type questions as well.
For sure.
Like, what would you do? Or what do you think? And it's hard because it's not my wedding and it's not about my personal style or what I think you should do. I'm here to guide you and give you the knowledge to make a really educated decision. But,
at the end of the day, it is
your
theirs,
wedding.
But you're acting as the guide, more or less. Okay, so let's go to an actual wedding day.
Okay, all right.
So
that's the best part.
Channel yourself in a wedding day. Yeah. And I know we've been on site together.
Yes.
And I think, it's rare that you get to actually sit down and speak on a wedding day because
especially vendor meal, which I never get to sit down for. I usually make sure everybody else eats. It's like the mom and the Italian and me, just like everybody go eat and I'll hold down the fort.
Yeah.
But it's very rare you get to like have a little chit chat with a vendor.
For sure.
On a
it's
wedding
like,
day.
What time's the vendor meal coming out? And then you're like off running somewhere else to do something else.
Yeah.
Always. So we all know that. But what do you think on a wedding day is like your favorite part? So let's go 2 ways. Okay. So your favorite part of planning in terms of like, is it coming up with the concept, the colors? Is it the food tasting, which you mentioned earlier? And then I also want to know during the day, what's your favorite part? Is it the prep when they're getting ready, or is it like grand entrance, or like what kind of
Good question.
What kind of feels like the most exciting?
Okay, I'll do wedding day second because it's easy for me. The planning part, it's hard because every couple has a unique story, a unique wedding. Like I said, I'm not often in a venue, so it's not like, I've got four walls. I kind of know what the expectation is of what we're kind of walking into. Usually I'm walking into like a field or, a dock or whatever. So the planning part for me, it's difficult to pinpoint like what is my favorite part because every wedding I do is so unique. Mm-hmm. But I would say anything that involves kind of logistics or production or lots of moving pieces. So for example, like I did a wedding last summer where we actually floated the tent on the lake. We were on Lake Joe and we were on an island.
How did you get there? How did you get to the tent?
We had to boat everything over. We had to barge over all of our equipment, our florals, our rentals, all of our labor, all the guests, like everything had to be brought over. So to me, the logistics of like figuring all of that out to make it seamless so that every guest shows up and is like, that was just so easy and wonderful. But when you think about it, like you get that invitation, you're like, how the heck are they going to pull this off? Like without it being annoying or waiting for a boat or whatever the hurdle might be. And to me, I would say my favorite part would be making sure that like logistically it's super seamless and the guest experience from like start to finish, including their family and the bridal party and the couple. But just it flows and they never see a hiccup. They never think about oh, there was no wait for that boat. I just walked and got right on it. And it's all about just that seamless timing and execution.
They have no thoughts basically. Because everything's just flowing. So they're not saying, I had to wait.
A lot of the times, because I am out of town, people don't necessarily realize like all the back end work that I'm working on, like figuring out power and washrooms and water source and like just these things you take for granted when you're in a ballroom or a hotel or a venue. So those are the things that I think probably get me going more than anything else. I love the flowers. I love the food. Like I love all those pieces. They're part of what makes it such a beautiful experience kind of from what you see visually. But it's all those underlying elements, the bones of your event that make it actually happen, like having light and having power and things like that are probably to me the most exciting. For the wedding day, I have two favorite parts. Okay. So my first favorite part is a lot of my clients do a first look. So first look is a really emotional, like there's just so much hype and so much build up. But my favorite part is actually, whether they've done a first look or not, is sending the bride down the aisle because I can see him seeing her. I don't necessarily see her face, but I see him seeing her for the first time or for, since a couple hours since they had their first look. But no matter what, it's always such a, it's such a beautiful moment. It's just like, pure love, which is like why we're in weddings, right? So that and the father-daughter dance gets me every time. Every time. Every time. And now I've got two girls. Right. So I think now it's, even more on that level where I'm like, oh, my girls are going to do this one day. And I just, for whatever reason, those are so probably my two favorite moments. I love a good hora too, but
I love when the bride and the father-daughter dance. Sometimes they'll even do a choreographed one, depending on who they like, depending on their vibe and what they do. But they'll surprise us. We had one wedding where they were doing like their slow dance, and then they busted out into some like crazy dance moves, and they had worked on it.
Have a good time. Like it's the most important thing is for people to not take it so seriously and like let yourself have a good time. You're only hopefully going to do it once.
Right? Is that like your main message on a wedding day, do you think? Like if you sense that like people might be getting a little excited or you're just kind of like just chill.
Well, like if the bride or her mom or whoever else has been involved, they start to get anxious about, especially if there's all these moving pieces like an island and barging and all of this stuff. They start, you may start to get a little bit like, how is this all going to come together? And you can kind of see some anxiousness or whatever. Just letting them know we've got it. Like we've got it. And you just need to enjoy your day. Like don't waste your precious 12 hours of this one day on worrying about any of that. That's why you hired us. We're a big team. We've got a lot of people. I never take any chances when it comes to like the number of bodies we have. There's always you can always have more people, and it's always better to have more than not enough.
Yeah.
So we've got it. Like, there's enough of us. We will handle it. Just like enjoy it.
Just let it roll.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's funny because I had a friend who got married, and so she didn't have a planner, and she had said to me, I became like the pseudo planner basically because I wasn't in the wedding. So she's going, can you go and make sure the DJ's queuing? Yeah. Can you go and do this? Yeah. And so
get a little taste of it.
Yeah, I did get a taste of it. And so I was like, okay, I'll do that. No problem. And then now, like when I speak to people, I'm like, you really should organize, you know, that
even
you
if it's a day of, like, it's just
something.
I don't do day of, you know, even if it just has to be one point person,
just a point
someone
person
who knows what they're doing,
yeah,
who can speak to a question that a bridesmaid may not know the answer to. She might think she knows what the answer is, but might not understand the implications of what that decision, how it trickles into some other pieces, because everything with a wedding trickles into another area.
For sure.
There's like a flow through.
Yeah.
So having somebody on site on the day is so crucial, so important.
So what do you think is, let's do a few hot or not.
Okay. I like that. Okay, fun.
Trends for 2019.
Okay.
Because you are seeing a lot more. So what happens is in video world, we show up and everything's
already done.
Everything's done.
That'd be nice. Whereas, actually, I don't think I'd enjoy that because I do like the building of all of these pieces. Like seeing it all come together and then walking into a finished room before anybody else comes in, you know, and photographing it and seeing like in its perfect state
before,
because it only lasts for like 5 minutes,
literally 5 minutes
until guests come in, and then it's, you know, it's still a wonderful, you know, environment, but there's something really surreal about seeing that dining room and that tent or whatever,
that product
all come together with all these rentals and the stationery and the flowers and
because it's like all your vision boards, right? Because you're creating mood boards and vision boards, and it's just like poof, now it's, you know,
it's like magic.
Yeah, it is like magic. It's like, well, it's like for us, because we go and we film it, and then obviously our magic is when we create the edit.
Exactly.
And then we tell the story. So they're similar, but yet yours is, well.
I'm pre and you're post.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, okay, so 2019. Yeah. Let's go colors for 2019. Okay.
So coral's the color of the year.
Coral's the color.
I've already done one coral wedding so far this year. It was beautiful. And I have another one coming up in a week. So coral is, but actually what's funny is both of these brides chose coral before it was the color of the year, right?
Okay.
Obviously we chose our color palettes a year. One of them chose it 2 years ago. So coral you will start to see more of. The green and white wedding is not going anywhere anytime soon, especially when Meghan Markle, you know, came out with her green and white entrance to her wedding, which everybody wanted last year. So green and white weddings are definitely not going anywhere.
I love green and white.
Soon. Yep. Studio right now, guys, is green and white.
Green, white, gold, black. Yeah, I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that.
I've got a Beyonce microphone right now. So yeah, gold accents. You're starting to see a little bit more play with metallics, which I really like. I mean, the last couple of years you've seen it, but I think people are starting to see it more in mainstream. Like what you see in Pinterest on Instagram generally translates to what people then obviously want. So if you're pinning a bunch of white and green weddings, Pinterest is going to show you more white and green weddings.
Right.
You're going to be more aware of them when you see them on Instagram and things like that. So metallics are, you know, the rose gold, you're seeing coppers and things like that.
Those are pretty. I like
nice.
those.
Yeah, it switches it up a little bit. I'm definitely a fan. Well, you're a ginger.
It's in my tone.
It's your DNA.
It is.
So yeah, you're definitely going to see, you know, some of that.
What about that mustard tone, but the nice mustard, not like, you know, scary mustard?
I have a bride right now for next year for 2020 who's into doing some of those like burnt oranges and mustardy colors and things like that.
I live in that palette.
Yes.
So I like the mustard, and then the coffee, the caramel.
Yes. Warm tones.
All warm tones.
Yeah.
But are those
all the colors in your hair?
Are we hot or not on those? Or upcoming?
Upcoming for sure. I think what's challenging for me, and I would say I'm not going to speak on behalf of all planners and florists and designers, but I would say it is a bit challenging, the world of Pinterest and all of these white and green weddings that are out there, because they're beautiful and there's a reason why everyone does them. They're classic. You're going to look at your photos in 20 years and not think like, what was I thinking?
Right.
People aren't naturally very daring when it comes to their wedding because they're only going to do it once and they want it to be, you know, like, we've all seen our parents' wedding pictures. Like my mom got married in a dusty rose dress.
Shoulder pads?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Shoulder pads were
like
in.
Late 70s, you know, and that was trendy then. So I think people think about that and they think, I don't want to be on trend. I want to be classic. And it's not a bad time to be classic. So, I don't fault you for it.
That's a good point.
My wedding was classic as well, right? It was super classic. So I think that there's a time and a place to be a bit more daring. If you love those kind of more daring tones, go for it. If you're really into it. I had a bride last year who was like anti-white and green wedding, and everything was color. Like the ceiling installation was color. The florals were all color. There was nothing white or green about her entire wedding. It was so beautiful. So yeah, if you're not like into doing it on the day of your wedding, do it at the rehearsal dinner, or do a really crazy fun bridal shower or your brunch or something. Like if you want to infuse a bit more personality in engagement party, do something where you can be a bit more daring. Test it out.
That's a hot tip.
See how you liked it for your engagement party. Was everyone like, oh my God, I can't believe that you did like, rusty orange. It was so beautiful. Then you might get the feedback you needed and that confidence to be able to bring it into your wedding day.
Cool.
Maybe it's not the flowers. Maybe it's the stationery. Maybe it's the bridesmaid's dress. Or, it doesn't need to be like the main focus.
Right.
But I think, don't be afraid to go a little bold.
Go a little bold.
A little bit.
Okay. Yeah. What about entrances? So from like... Maybe not the walk down the aisle, depending if it's a church, but I mean, any grand entrances. Have you seen any that are like super, like I've seen one where there was this was online, not necessarily at one of the weddings I was at, but she was on a swing and it was being lifted by balloons.
Yes, I saw that.
I don't know if you saw that.
Like gone viral on,
oh my God.
I've seen that on Instagram
I thought it was amazing. So
I feel like we should try to do that this time.
Honestly, they have to be out there who want to do that. But.
Yeah, you know what? It's one of those funny things that we brainstorm a lot, but I think ultimately it's one of those things that people don't follow through on it because I don't know.
Like no hot air balloons. Have you done a plane one since you've been in Muskoka?
No, I haven't done a plane.
Because I know that's right where the bride comes in on the.
We've done the guest arrival via steamship in Muskoka, which is really awesome. So they traveled from the JW Marriott where everyone was staying for the weekend to the cottage, and they got to travel through some of the lakes on their way, and that was really cool. The guests like absolutely loved that.
Cool.
But yeah, no like real crazy entrances. Get a lot of horrors, which feel wild and crazy.
Right.
I've got one group of friends that I've done a couple of their weddings, and they get major
horrors get
pyramids
crazy.
And
horrors get crazy.
Yeah, brides get tossed into the ceiling. So yeah, that I would say probably more so than the airplane stuff.
Okay.
But I'm in.
You're in whatever, right? That's what I said.
Yeah.
I'm down for whatever. Like I am actually waiting for a silent drone to come into play because
drones are tricky.
Drones are tricky for a number of reasons, but they're also very loud.
That's what I mean. I love them for a ceremony, but I'm always like, get away from my ceremony because it's all anybody's doing is looking at your drone.
I know. Yeah. And so we actually had a wedding last year, Bianca and Daniel, that we shot downtown, and we went into the church, and this is so rare. But the priest
let you do it.
The priest said, "Do you have a drone you want to fly?" And he was so excited for us to be able to do this, and I was like, I love you. Yes. I was like, can you come to every wedding that I shoot? And I was like, unfortunately, I can't.
Why? Because you can't.
It would just be too loud.
Yeah.
I said I would love to, but you won't even hear you, so I can't do it. And they're loud. So
any drone suppliers out there, if you have a silent drone, let us know.
Yeah, exactly. Work on that. Yeah. Let's get that going. Yeah. But that would be amazing to have that because it was such a beautiful church and the ceilings were so high. And if you could actually have that where you're flying it in.
Let me know what church when we go offline, and I'll see if I can send some business that way.
Seriously. So that's something really fun that I'm looking forward to. Yeah. But you're in Muskoka like 50%? Or are you?
It depends on the year.
Right.
So last year I was in Muskoka for like 70% of our weddings, which is awesome. Like I'm not ever going to complain about being up in Muskoka.
For sure.
It's a lot of time away from my family and things like that. But sometimes I'm able to bring them with me, which is nice.
That's nice.
But I do. I mean, we live in Toronto. In Ontario in the summer, you want to be up north and out of the city. Right. So, definitely never going to complain to be up there.
Right.
And this summer, I've got a handful of them up there, but already next year, every booking I have already is all Muskoka.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So Instagram.
Yes.
Now,
I love Instagram.
Instagram is a huge platform, and everybody wants to have the top look on Instagram, basically. So what do you suggest when people want to have a background for their Instagram or their hashtag? Do you help in hashtags, or do people usually
they figure out their own hashtag?
Okay.
I always tell people to make it a little bit more playful than Laura and Sam say I do, or you know what I mean? Like,
incorporate last names.
Just make it more fun. Like,
something.
You have a little pun or a play or an inside joke. Like, it doesn't really matter whether all 150 or 250 people understand your hashtag as long as they use it.
Yep.
So the hashtag is definitely a thing. My biggest advice with the hashtag is search it first.
Right.
Don't just come up with something and then search it and realize that like some branding agency used it for something. And
or Sam and Mitch already got married
exactly.
2 years ago.
And you're like now in a mix of all their stuff. So yeah, just search it first.
Okay.
But be a bit more playful and have some fun with it.
Okay.
And in terms of photos, like I like when people give their guests an opportunity to take a great photo and curate what that perspective is on what they're putting out there to represent your wedding.
Right.
So, whether you have a photo booth or not, and the photo booths nowadays I find are like the super plain, crisp, black or white backdrop, usually white, black and white photos. Like everyone looks good with a black and white filter. I mean, let's be honest. But if you're not going to do a photo booth, just think about like naturally where people are going to take photos. So for example, if you're at a cottage in Muskoka, everyone's going to take a photo with the water behind them.
Right.
So maybe think about like where you want that photo taken and how far is it from the main dining tent, because you don't really want to lose people to go out and take photos all the time. But if you had a beautiful ceremony, arch or chuppah or one of those really beautiful semicircles you're seeing a lot of, maybe that you leave up. Don't break it down.
Okay.
If you can, sometimes they're repurposed pieces to go into your dining tent as other decor. But if you can let people take photos there and like kind of give them, the unsaid message of like, go ahead and take a photo.
There's your spot.
There's your spot. It's right there for
you.
Document. It's perfect. We'll put a cruiser table. You can put down your clutch and your glass of wine, and
perfect.
We can even help you take your photo.
Are signs coming back in, like neon signs, that kind of stuff?
Neon signs have been around for a little while, yes.
Okay.
I'm currently in the market for them as well, actually, for my girls' rooms. But like I think people are getting more, as much as they're going for these super neutral and classic color palettes, I think people are having way more fun in incorporating interesting elements into their wedding.
Okay.
So whether it's a really cool neon sign above the bar or, some other personal touch, what I think is most important is making your wedding authentic to who you guys are. There's nothing worse than when I have a meeting with a client. So for example, they come in and we'll have our, first consultation, and I'll say like, what are some of the favorite things of weddings that you've been to? If they're like, oh, whose wedding was that? Oh, there was this, oh, I don't remember whose that was. Which one was that at? That means that wedding was not authentic.
Right.
There's nothing about that let them remember that it was that person's wedding.
Gotcha.
So infusing some sort of your own personality into it, and sometimes for some people it's the flowers and the color. Some people it's the menu and the wine and that kind of food experience.
Right.
Everybody has a different priority of their wedding, and I think figure out what yours is and focus on it, because otherwise you're just like every other.
Right.
And nobody wants to be just like every other wedding. Like every single person I talk to says, I want different.
Right.
Which is funny because ultimately different is pretty much the same as everybody else who wanted different, but it's fine because it's different to them and that's okay. You take for granted sometimes that like I do this multiple times a year, which is different than maybe your guests who are only going to go to two weddings that year or something like that. But have a little fun and do things that are maybe not like status quo,
outside the box.
Interesting entertainment, more color, some.
I'm finding that I'm seeing a lot of during cocktail hour, some like hip hop, violinists even, or like trios.
Yes,
and I think it's so cool.
People remember it.
So
people
different.
Remember their experience, and they may not remember specifically what made them feel so good about that experience, but they'll know that it was thoughtful and that they felt it from the minute they came to the minute they left. And those are the people who say, like, that was the best wedding ever. Might totally not be their own style, might not be what they would do for their wedding, but their takeaway from it is that was the best wedding ever. And they'll always remember the couple it was, the weekend it was,
because it felt
where it was,
true to who they are.
Exactly.
So like if somebody loves hip hop, they're going to have hip hop. Yes. I think it was, I don't know, I think I was just shooting and I heard Coldplay or something. And
interesting.
I was just like, oh my God, that's Coldplay. I know this song. And then I started queuing in and listening to all the songs. And I was like, I know this is Drake.
Right. Playing on a violin
during the ceremony.
Yeah.
What? Yes. So there's a lot of different things that are happening now, which I like. And it's cool for me to see because I just go, again, I show up on the day of and I'm seeing all these.
Well, but something like that doesn't cost them any more money either. It's just an interesting detail that could have been their favorite Drake song and they love it and they turned it into an instrumental, and as that bride walked down the aisle or the groomsmen or whoever had that song, the people who are in their ceremony are going to remember it and notice it. That did not cost them a penny more, but it elevated their experience by major brownie points to everybody, right? Because they were like, oh, that was so cool.
Yeah, like that's a memory I had.
You're paying for a musician anyways. Let's just not do Canon D.
Do what you like.
Let's do something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And most of the time they're all a little bit flexible because they're also upping their game, and
if they've got time to learn a song, they will likely always try. They might not learn 12 songs for you, but if there's like one that's just really meaningful and that could translate really well and they can add to their repertoire and they've got enough time and notice and proper planning, all of these things can happen.
There you go.
Yeah.
So do you think right now, let's go to first dances.
Okay.
Do you find that more couples are doing first dances that are choreographed, or is it completely based on personality, or is there a trend on like salsa dancing or...
So I think the last couple of years have kind of gone away from the more staged, I would call it, first dances. I have had couples who've done the dance lessons, they've done the salsa thing, they've done the waltz. My husband and I did the waltz.
Oh, at your wedding?
Yes, we did. Successfully, I might add. He was a much better dancer than I
really?
was. But yeah,
and
so...
wait, I have to time it. Video?
I didn't do video.
Did we get video?
My biggest regret. And I tell every single client, if you can get video in your budget, do it, because it is my biggest regret is not doing it. And I tell every single couple, if you don't have to spend a fortune, if you can't afford the best of the best, but you don't want to be like me where you have like little snippets of an iPhone video that my brother-in-law took that are my cherished videos of me walking down the aisle with my brother. And anyways, yes, if you can
and you don't get
video,
to see your husband doing waltz dance.
No, no, and he won't practice with me anymore either. But I do think that the best dances that I see are the ones where they kind of fall into each other and it's like nobody else is around them. Like they're just kind of swaying back and forth. There's nothing too, choreographed or staged or planned. It's not contrived whatsoever. It's just a moment for them in the night, and probably one of the few moments where the two of them just get to be together. As much as, yes, there could be 100 or 200 or 300 people watching them, there are very few moments throughout your wedding day where you are just together. And that's one of those moments that I think the more natural you are, the better, because your guests will sense that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pick a great song, something that matters, that means something to you.
Yeah.
Pick something that... you'll look back and go, yeah, I still love that song. When I hear it, I still think of that moment or whatever the first moment was that you heard it, right? Like it could have been your first date 10 years before you got married, right? Like it's just, music is a really important way of kind of transcending you into like a totally different time and feeling, right?
Absolutely. And I think sometimes... although choreographed dances
they're fun.
They're very
super
fun and they're cool.
Your guests love them.
Everybody loves them.
If you can pull them off.
Yeah, exactly. I think there might be a level of stress that people go through with trying to learn that.
That's what you feel when you see the choreographed dance is like, how can you really show that love for one another when you're counting steps? Unless you're a dancer.
Yeah.
Like, and it just naturally flows and you're just like really good, then fine. But I just feel like, just fall into each other. It doesn't even matter if you're really moving too much. Just.
I'm so sad we're not going to see the waltz that you guys did.
I know.
For real.
There's a couple photos.
There's photos
around out there.
That's good.
I remember it. I remember my step.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the wedding giveaway that we have coming up.
Yes.
So
the luxury wedding giveaway.
Luxury wedding giveaway.
Yeah.
Let's fill everybody in on. So first of all, it was you had contacted me, and mentioned that you were hosting this contest.
Do this crazy contest.
It's so cool,
yeah.
And jumped on board immediately.
Yes.
And why don't you fill everyone in on kind of who originated the contest and why you wanted to do this contest?
Right. So I've wanted to do something in kind of a give back mentality for a long time, but never kind of really figured out how I could do it, what I could do. There's an organization in the States called Wish Upon a Wedding. That's a really fantastic organization that puts on weddings for people who are sick so that their families can celebrate with them, while they're healing or before they pass. And it's, not a pleasant situation to be in, but
for sure.
These people really value the services that the wedding professionals in the States can provide for them. So that was kind of always in the back of my mind, doing something along that vein. And then Viviana, who is one of the partners and owners of the Symes, which is an event venue in the Junction, she reached out to me when I was on my 4-day mat leave that I took this time. And she said, I want to do something interesting. I want to give away a wedding or do something really cool. And I thought, you know what, this is the opportunity. Let's do something that nobody's ever done before. Top end vendors, luxury providers, service providers in our industry coming together to do something that's just literally for the goodness of somebody else. Like there's no hidden agenda. Obviously, we get a little play on social media, like any of that kind of stuff is gravy, but really ultimately we just wanted to gift someone something that they could otherwise never have. And we're lucky in the markets that we both work in that we work with a certain level of clientele. I'm very used to certain levels of budgets and things like that to work with where, we can really do anything. For some people it's easier than others, but there's such a massive market of people out there who look to us for inspiration, for ideas.
For sure, yep.
But they just think, we can never have that, right? Even now thinking about it, I'm like, oh, imagine, I could have a wedding like that. I had a really beautiful wedding, but so Vivian and I just we started chatting and thought, who do we want to be on our dream team? And lucky, every single person that we went to, our first kind of choice, all jumped at, just like you did, jumped at the opportunity to be on board and to do this with us. So the contest has been on now for, I think, 3 months. We wanted a really long window for people to submit. They only had to submit a 1-minute video on their Instagram grid, tagging us all on it and tell us your story. Why do you deserve this? Or why do you want this? Or, why would this make your life so much better? Just, tell us about it. There was no other criteria. It should be like a once in a lifetime experience, I think, for all of us, because not only are we going to completely change someone's life, we're also setting them up for the future. A wedding is very expensive. And if you aren't in a situation where you are being gifted by your parents or, whatever, or you financially stable yourself to be able to do this, you think about that investment that you're making.
For sure.
And, I think, some of the people who've submitted their wedding videos have said things like, we would never get married otherwise. And to me, that makes me so sad, right? It's a big investment. And I think sometimes I take for granted how blessed I am to be in this market, to have this wonderful community of clients, and to be busy.
It's so true.
Because not everybody is busy. And I just honestly wanted to do something that's just going to warm somebody's heart and make them just so happy.
Yeah, make their dream, right?
Yeah.
And so I found it really cool because when you had announced it, and then a lot of vendors in Toronto were jumping on board and they're saying, we want to be a part.
Yes.
And so everybody really wants to give back. And it's something that, we want to do this for other people and, like I said, make their dream come true.
Well, it's interesting because we have such a specialized service, right? Yeah. So for us to donate our services, especially individually, it's very hard to, I guess, kind of see value or to really get a takeaway from it.
Right.
I can plan your wedding, but if you can't afford any of the pieces of your wedding, then that's really challenging. It is challenging for me. It's challenging for them. So if somebody wins this, to be able to say, like, everybody's taken care of. Yeah. Your photo, your video, your flowers, your bar, your food, the staff, the venue. Everything. And then, we had people coming in. So, we had a hotel reach out to take care of their night stay of the night of the wedding. We had another destination wedding planner reach out who wanted to gift them a honeymoon to a luxury resort in Mexico. So cool. Someone reached out with a candle favor, custom scented candle to give to all their guests, a photo booth company. Like, everyone has just really wanted to be a part of this. And I think it's nice because as a community together, we're really able to show an amazing gift to this couple. Sure. Whereas individually it would be hard, right? Yeah. To kind of put it all together. So I think it's come together really nicely. And
maybe we should have the couple on here too.
I think that's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
I think that's a great idea.
I think maybe even pre and post.
I think that's a great idea.
So, I was super excited to see who our big winners are. And so from now, the wedding date is January 25th.
The wedding date will be January 25th, 2020 at the Symes in the Junction.
Yeah.
And
so you'll have meetings with them to coordinate a few things. I think we'll pop down and do some video as well and kind of keep you guys
follow along
up to speed on like how it's going, because I think that would be really neat to watch the journey of.
Yeah, and I think the experience for them will be a little bit different than any of our other clients, right? Mm-hmm. Because what's funny is by the time people usually get to me, I then build the dream team with them, right? So this is a little bit different where they're going to be coming to me or to all of us, and the dream team is already built.
Yeah.
So it's funny because that process usually takes quite a bit to get everybody kind of locked in and, review contracts and, interview multiple vendors within categories and things like that. So it's going to be, I think, maybe a more stress-free process. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously they're getting a wedding given to them, but also just like the overwhelming options that we have in this city for amazing vendors in each category. Like there's incredible planners, videographers, photographers, florists. Like we've got amazing resources in
Toronto's
the city.
The hub.
It is the hub.
Hub
we're where it's at. So it'll be cool to kind of watch them go through this process, knowing that all their vendors have already been picked. They're like the top end vendors. You can't really get much better, if I do say so myself. And but I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be fun to go through that process.
I think it's going to be really nice. Like they're just going to be so thankful and so grateful, and I think it's going to be nice for us to be able to do that and give back. And I think it'll be cool to share the journey with people as well.
I think we'll be able to have maybe a bit more fun with them,
right?
Because they're not going to be so bogged down with the stresses of costs or who to pick, who's the right fit for me, all of these kind of very natural stresses that come through the process. I think we'll maybe be able to have a bit more fun with them.
Maybe you can toss some color in there, and maybe we can put them on a swing with the balloons and fly them in.
Maybe. January, I don't know that any brides going flying in the sky in January, although who knows, we might have like a nice warm spell. We'll see.
Get a hot air balloon on board.
We'll get a drone for sure.
Or something on board,
Mm-hmm.
Fireworks. Like fireworks.
We don't have a fireworks provider.
Big fan of fireworks. Can you do fireworks in the winter?
Of course you can.
You can do them anytime?
Anytime, as long as it's not raining.
Done. Who's out there? Fireworks.
Call us.
Well, I think we are ready to wrap up.
Amazing.
And I want to.
So fun. I could do this all day.
Thank you for coming. I know we could keep going.
Thanks for having me.
But thank you so much for coming, and you're absolutely coming back.
I'm a professional podcaster.
You are a professional podcaster.
It'll be in my bio line.
And the gold mic it looks good on you.
I'm into it. Amazing. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Bye.